Hello, good morning. Welcome back to Argyle Breakfast. Just gone 10:30 on your Saturday morning. Now, on to the next guest. I think it's fair to say that the summer transfer window has certainly been a busy one for Argyle. 15 players have joined and 17 have left. So it's been a bit of an overhaul here at the club, and the man behind a lot of those ins and outs, and I'm probably relieved, I think, that the transfer window has now shut, is the club's head of football operations, David Fox, and he joins us in the studio now. Welcome to Argyle Breakfast. Okay. Yeah, we were just saying off camera that you and Aaron got the same Navy memo that I clearly missed out on. So thanks, guys. You could have let me know.
We glide through the fashion industry.
yes. Complimented lovely by the green sofa over there. How are you? I imagine it's been a really busy few weeks for you.
Yeah, it has. Busy few months. Obviously, since I came in the door, just a few weeks after the end of the season, there's been a massive amount of turnover at the football club from a playing point, and I think also from a staff point of view as well. A lot of change, a lot of turnover, more than I would like, for sure. But that's the reality of what it is, and you've got to make the best of what you've got and do the best you can. And yeah, listen, it's something we'll learn from, I'm sure, as a club going forward, to hopefully not put ourselves in a position where we have this much turnover every summer.
Yeah, I mean, and as well, coming into the club at the time you did, is it help or hindrance depending on kind of how long a run-up you've got coming into the window?
I think there's certain aspects that was helpful, for sure. I think there was clarity, or I certainly had clarity, that the manager wants to go. I'm not sure he sort of said the same messages to the football club, but I think when you're in football, you understand what's going on, and you knew that the manager was looking to move on. So we had to recruit a new head coach fairly early as well as a situation with a lot of players that we didn't want to leave the club. Unfortunately, that was out of our control, and they've moved on. And yeah, listen, it's been a lot of learning from everyone, I'm sure. And hopefully now the window's shut, this is what we are, and we've got to make sure we put out better performances, better results on the pitch. Yeah,
I think this is something, Aaron, that you and I have spoken about on the breakfast show before, where there's actually a lot of moving parts, particularly in the way Argyle have progressed this season, because you've got to factor in the relegation and, like you said, certain players wanting to leave and stay up in the Championship. You've got the timing of the summer window, and then you've got the change in head coaches as well, and the styles that they want to play and the footballers they're going to want to play for them. So there's a lot of different elements at play here that, you know, I guess some you have to take from and some you have to give.
Yeah, for sure. I think, you know, the team that I saw at the end of the season in the Championship wasn't, that style of play wasn't going to be what the manager wanted to recruit for. He wanted a young, athletic, dynamic side, and the new head coach we brought in wants the same. So there was an alignment. I don't think I think what Miron did at the end of last season was produce a football style that got results. He wasn't going to do the same again in League One if he was to stay. Hence the reason we brought in younger players is something that he wanted, and then the new head coach has come in and wants the same. So in terms of that sort of progression or sort of the synergy between the two, I think we were okay with that one. But yeah, like you say, you're losing players all the time. Players that made it very clear they didn't want to be here, and you want to bring in players that do. And we've done that, like you say. It's always difficult when there is such a big turnover of players, because you know you want to get as many as you can in early. You want the head coach to work with them early, but also you want the right ones as well. And sometimes that can take a little bit of time.
Yeah, how do you, I mean, let's look at something that I think people will be quite interested in at the moment, which was getting a striker and getting someone that's going to score goals. How do you look at a situation like that when we're looking at who are the players that we're going to have that are going to be performing on the pitch, fill this number 9 role like we now have with Laurent Talai?
Well, the biggest problem, the biggest worry I had coming in was that we had no centre forward at the football club, and that can't happen. You can't have a lone player, a player out of contract, and then one that moves on before you've even come in the building. That's not what we need. So you have to then find a different way of doing it. You have to find different profiles to complement each other, and that's what we've ended up doing. We've taken a couple of younger players that we feel have got the physical potential to really kick on with us, and we've got someone who scored a lot of goals last season and in the National League. So listen, what I would say is that whoever has played number 9 this season has scored goals. Caleb Watts on the first game of the season, Owen Aseni's got 3, Laurent's now got 2. I think Zav, when he scored his goal, was playing as a striker. So the number 9s that we have at the club have scored goals. Now we need more around them for sure. But yeah, it's been a not a long it's been a difficult process to have to go through when you're having to recruit so many in one position in the summer.
So from a fan's perspective, we see stuff online, and like we've said previously, fans are emotional, they care, and when things don't quite materialise, they get frustrated. So can you just elaborate on, when it comes to identifying certain players, you know, we're fully aware of the fact that you've got a limited parameter on who realistically you can get at the club because of where we are in terms of the league, finances available. So if you were looking at a number 9, could you just provide a bit of an insight in the selection criteria? So what actually happens, so that you can then go, right, here are 4 players that realistically would fit what we are able to achieve, not what we want to achieve, what we are able to achieve.
Yeah, so there's you have a long list of strikers, you know, through a variety of scouted reports, through data, through agents, through a whole variety. You have a list of names, and then through, like say, you whittle that down to your top 2 or 3 or 4 that are realistic, because you know, well, we can afford them, or they want to come, they don't want to come, and you go for different skill sets. So Owen, I think we can see, loves to run in behind, scores goals inside the box, which he's done with his goals so far. His physical data was good, so that was one that we could afford and we could do, and he wanted to come, and then you do it. And then obviously then Talaj was one that we tracked all summer. And then it got to a point where he would be interested in coming, so we had to then move quickly. We did do, and managed to bring them to the club. The same with Bim. While we had a runner in behind, we wanted someone who was a bit more back to goal, who could then pin people, who can bring others into play, and he was a younger one that we could afford, that we could do. The big thing for me, and it's not a learning, I'm saying that again, it's the reality is that there's a lot of names get spouted around that are not true, and it becomes really difficult to control the noise externally when there's players that, like, it looks like we've missed out on players, and we haven't. We were never in for them, they were never realistic, they were never an option that we could do. Now some obviously we've gone in for and not got, and that's football. Like, no one gets everyone they want. It's not like we've been after 15 players and we signed 15 players. That's every single club in the world goes through those same sorts of things. But what I would say is that a lot of the noise it's been difficult to control because of the reality of, well, we know we're not going to get them. We moved on weeks ago, but the names are still getting spouted around, and it becomes difficult. And I understand the frustrations with that, but internally we knew what we could do and what we could afford to do, and how we were trying to build a variety of different attributes for a centre forward, and in the end we've managed to get players that we hope can score goals for the club.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's important because it's nice to hear it from an outward perspective, in that, you know, you work hard behind the scenes, and everyone works hard behind the scenes to get the players in. You go for people and they don't come, but like you said, there's also players that you're not even connected to yet, because of the continuation online, it feels like we're not making a concerted effort to try and get them in, and you go, well, we never went for them in the first place.
Or they've made it very clear early on that they were not going to come to us, and then you move on, and that's fine. Like I say, we're not in a position where we can double someone's money to come down here, but listen, it was never, I don't think any of the deals we went in for, the players we went in for, I don't think we were ever blown out of the water or able to compete financially. Listen, if they go to the Championship, we can't compete.
Sure, yeah.
That's fine. Yeah. Other players that went to other clubs in League One, it wasn't because of money. And that's a reality of it. They just went somewhere else, or they made it very clear they weren't going to come to Plymouth. They got family. Their wives don't want to live in Plymouth. Like,
the demographic's massive, isn't it?
It's
so far away, you know.
What I would say as well is that can't be an excuse.
No.
This club's had some very, very successful teams in the past 25 years. And Plymouth's always been here, so you can create
Plymouth is where it is, and it's one of those things you have to.
But that doesn't mean that you can't go and get a good team or go and get good players, because it's been proven.
No, exactly. Yeah, we have,
and we need to do that again.
Yeah, we absolutely do. David is going to stay with us for a little bit longer, and we'll get some of your questions to him as well. Welcome back. We have David Fox with us here live in the studio to answer some of your questions about the transfer window. And I'm pleased to say we've got some messages in now, so I shall put them to you. First question from Mark Gilbert, who says, why did it take until we had played 4 league games to replace a striker and 2 centre-halves that are key to any team? I think you kind of touched on this a little bit, but just to go back to it.
Yeah, just making sure we got the right ones. I think, obviously we were in for centre forwards before that we couldn't get for various reasons, and then we were lucky to get, well, not lucky, but we managed to get the ones we wanted. I think we were keen to go with what we had, and then obviously the results meant that we had to sort of pivot a little bit, and we're pleased to bring in a couple of centre backs that we did. But listen, you want everyone in before the start of the season for sure. You want them all in before pre-season. Let's be honest, but unfortunately that wasn't to be the case, and thankfully now we've got those players in, and hopefully now they can start to gel and get a bit of understanding and togetherness.
Yeah, we've got a message here from Kenny, who wants to know what the transfer criteria was at the start of the window, and did it change at any point?
The criteria was certainly to bring in young, dynamic and hungry players that wanted to be here. We want to see assets on the football pitch, but at no point should that be at the detriment of getting results. And I think that's the balance that at the minute we've not quite got. And what we need to get is the short-term results, but also think a little bit more medium to long-term, and not be so just everything's in on one thing, and then you come to the end of a summer and you end up having to get rid of 17 odd players, move on. We can't have that.
Yeah.
So there was certainly a sort of a remit to bring in young players, our own players, to work, to develop them, and to go on a journey together. And listen, it's not been an easy start for sure, but we have to think a little bit more longer term, a little bit more what the future could look like, and hopefully it's with these players. Hopefully they can progress and stick together. But on the flip side of that, we know we've got to get results at the minute.
I'm just conscious because you mentioned the criteria of being like younger players, for example, there. And one of the other points that Kenny has made is can you speak about the need to address like a lack of experience in the team? Obviously some, for example, we've lost, as you mentioned, a lot of players, big players that have been associated with the club for a long time and have had a lot of experience. So where is the balance then between getting in these young players and also making sure we have the experience in the squad?
Oh no, absolutely. You have to find the right balance. What I would say is that there is experience in the squad. It's just we've not been able to get them on the pitch, and that's been the biggest problem this season for me. Is that we've not been able to get our older, more experienced players on the pitch. You think of Connor Hazard's not kicked a ball. Jack McKenzie, 25 years old, played in Europe, played in Scotland. A really good age. He's not kicked a ball yet. We're missing Brendan Galloway. We're missing Jamie Patterson. We've missed Joe Edwards. Now all these players are plenty of experience, and they are at the football club. It's just we've not been able to get them on the pitch yet. They're coming back. I think Connor and Jack McKenzie will be like, obviously they'll be new signings because they've not played yet. They'll bump the age of the profile of the squad up. Jamie Patterson will be fit. Joe Edwards is going to be fit. So all of a sudden, you've got Brendan Galloway, there is experience at the club. It's just we've not been able to get them on the pitch as much as we'd have liked. And then I think if you look at some of the other ones that we do have, despite their young ages, I do think they have a lot of experience. When you look at Barley, you know, he's only 23, but he's played a lot of games. Brendan Wiradu, 25, played a lot of games. Alex Mitchell, he's young in age, but he's played a lot of games. He got promoted last season. So there is experience at the club. It's just unfortunate that we've not been able to get them all together yet, and I think that will come when we get lads back in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. There's a one from Lewin here. Whether you can quantify it in an exact number, how much of the budget was spent in the summer transfer window? 50%, 70%? And will there be more for January?
I think there'll always be discussions with the board in terms of January. We don't want to have money sitting around doing nothing. We want to get the best that we can out of it. But the board, the owner, have been great in terms of being able to do things. So, yeah, listen, there'll be discussions around what January looks like. I'm sure there'll be movements, ins and outs, because there always is, but hopefully not to the levels we've had before. But yeah, there'll be discussions, and the work's already begun on what the January window looks like already, and what we'll need going forward, and what we'll put in place to make sure that we can strengthen and get better in January as well.
Because there was a lot of talk before about this top six budget, coming into League One. Is that a help or a hindrance, having that kind of, tagged on to Argyle as a figure?
For me, it means nothing to me.
Right.
I'm sure that it creates a lot of noise, and I'm sure it's something, I'm getting beaten with all the time. But budget, regardless of budgets, you've still got to, whatever it is, you've got to do better than what you've got. And at the minute, we're probably not, and we have to do better. I don't want to use that as an excuse. I don't think that gives you a divine right to win football matches or to lose football matches. You have to produce better. You have to produce better with what you get, and hopefully, when we get a few of those older ones back and a bit of experience, and all of a sudden the team starts taking a bit of shape, we can get to nearer where we need to be.
Damien Goodall would like to know, what does your day-to-day look like since you've been in at the club?
It's just being here every day. I like to watch training, to see how the lads are, make sure that the atmosphere, the feeling around the place is good. I sit in on the coaches meeting, the multidiscipline team meeting, making sure that we're all working together and that everyone is off the same page. And then obviously during the window, you're speaking a lot to the recruitment team and taking on board what they're saying and what they're wanting to do, and trying to put those into effect. I mean, and then obviously then you've got upwards with Andrew and Simon and the board, and sort of making sure that they're aware of what's going on. So yeah, it's been very full on, it's been very hectic, and a lot to deal with, but no, it's what I expected it to be.
And speaking of recruitment, a lot of people want to know, what is your relationship with Tom Randall like?
Yeah, it's fine. He's been doing this for a long time. He's put together teams that have got promoted. He's got teams out of this league before, and he's good at what he does. And yeah, I've seen him a couple of times. Speak to him probably every day, 2 or 3 times every day during the window. He speaks to the manager. We have meetings with the manager quite regular, and then yeah, we take on board sort of what the recruitment team wants to do and who they should get for what the manager wants, and we go and try and get the players.
I'm assuming that changes, yeah? So when Miron was here, what Miron wanted as a profile of player might be slightly different. I know you said athleticism, young age, that goes as standard, but player type might change with the manager's preference, of course. So does the manager have a bigger influence on the type of players they want brought in? Because in the modern game, as you know, the managerial shelf life is quite small, isn't it? It's quite limited. So obviously you've got an element of longevity to take care of, but also to fit the mould of what the current manager wants in terms of playing style.
Yeah.
So
there have to have that balance. You can't be manager led for sure. And Tom knows that. But yes, he should also have a say and make sure that the players that we bring in are what he wants for sure. Otherwise, you're just creating a disaster because he'll never play them. So there has to be all those things do have to line up. There has to be a connection between what the recruitment team are recommending, what the manager's wanting, and actually what's realistic. And I think we've in the main we've had that, but also what we have to do is we do have to protect the long-term future of the club, and we have to, if the manager leaves to go somewhere else, then the next one comes in has to be of the same mould to get the best out of what we have, because these are players that we hope will be here for a while, that we want to nurture, that we want to get better, and then eventually we want to move them up to the Championship. That's the plan. Now, for us, that is the plan is that they get to the Championship with us. But if not, we're creating assets for the football club, value for the football club that will ensure that the next lot can then come in and we go again and we keep getting better. And listen, as a football club, we want to be in the Championship. That is the statement. That's what we're trying to do. Absolutely. And that's what everyone in the club wants to get to. But we have to get in players that can get to that level. Sure. And that ideally they take us with them. If not, then we have to have assets that we can then go and sell.
And that's a valid point. Like, operational longevity is probably more important than just pure managers, isn't it?
Yes.
Because it's almost a case of when a manager comes and goes, the operation still needs to operate.
Yes. Yeah.
And therefore you've got to bring in it's not only about bringing in players who fit a mould, it's also the manager who fits the mould to allow the operation to continue.
Yeah,
the conveyor belt mustn't stop.
Absolutely. That's why we went down the road with Tom and the staff, because we wanted someone that can come and make players better. And that's his job, that's his passion, that's what the coaches want to do. And then the next one will be the same. And we have to create Argyle players for whoever the manager is, but we have to go and get Argyle that can do all the things that a modern day footballer can do. And then the manager then just drops in and works with those, and then the next one drops in and works with those. And you're not getting a churn of 15 players that, I don't like him, I don't like him. No. This is what we do, this is how we play, this is what we want to do. And then whoever comes in as a manager works with that.
You could argue, I know we're limited on time, like perhaps Miron was a bit of an anomaly in his style. It wasn't perhaps conducive to what the long vision looked like, because his job was to try and keep them in the Championship, and he towards the end he started to get some good results, just ran out of time. But it kind of makes sense how long term we want the consistency of the profile that's synonymous with.
Yeah, and I think he would have been different this year as well. It wouldn't have been that this year. It'd have been different, and it would have been a lot more high energy, a lot more front foot, a lot more pressing high up the pitch. And that's where we want to get to.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just conscious we've only got a couple more minutes left, so I do want to get through a couple more of the fan questions we've been sent in. Martin Horgan. Now, the phrasing of this is interesting to me. Why did it take so long to realise that we had no centre-backs when our aim was to get transfer business done early? Is realise the right word here? Because, we're talking about that differentiation between, working operationally and what the fans see. So maybe they're saying, why is it taking us so long to get these centre-backs, and that was our aim to get business done, but surely something you would have been aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's not forget, Pleggy's out for 5 months. Pleggy got injured in the last pre-season game of the last pre-season game. So we had Victor Paulson, Brendan Galloway, Pleggy, and then we had Brendan Wiradoo, who can play midfield and centre-back. So we had 4 centre-backs at the club. Now, unfortunately, Victor form and a few other bits and pieces meant that he moved on. And Pleggy's out for 4 months, so we had to act there and then. It wasn't like, well, let's go and buy some centre backs. We had the centre backs, we had players in the building, and when we had to, due to an injury and other circumstances, we had to move on and go and get 2 more. So yeah, listen, we've got players now that we want, that want to be here, and hopefully they can gel and get better. But yeah, we had the players in the building for sure. It's just unfortunate with the circumstances and the injury, because I think Pleggy has, with his age, his profile, what he's been through, his feeling at the club, you know, he's a big miss.
Of course, and where we are then now, we've tried to cover as much as we can of the transfer window up to this point, and ask some of the fan questions. So now, will we look at the free agent market, and what are the plans for January?
You're always looking at the free agent market for sure. Ideally, we don't go down that road, because I think it takes a little bit of time to get up to speed. But listen, if there's someone out there that can come and make us better, and that we need, and that everyone's aligned with, then I'm not ruling it out for sure. But I think we need a little bit of time to breathe, a little bit of time for the squad to breathe. There's competition for places now once we get a few coming back, which is something we've probably not had in the first few weeks of the season. We've not had real competition for places, because the players haven't been available to go and compete. So hopefully that will raise standards a little bit. And then January, we'll see how the next few months pan out. We'll have targets, we'll have ideas, we'll have ways in which we need to pivot as a club. But the same main strategy remains the same, that we need to get the right ones in that'll make the club better. And listen, if we have to do that in January, we'll go and do it.
Thank you for coming in this morning off what I imagine has been off the back of a very busy period for you. Hopefully, as fans watching, you found this helpful for us to do here on Argyle Breakfast, and hopefully maybe again when January comes around, we can just keep the conversation going and open, and keep everything nice between the fans and the club, and move forward positively, because I think, Aaron, certainly you will have a much greater understanding than I do with your football expertise, but it is really interesting to get this insider information, really, isn't it?
Well, we spoke earlier, prior to David coming on, about the clarity of messages, both in and out. And if people can, fans might not always agree with things, but if they listen to messages, and messages are relayed in a clear way, at least they can respect the fact that the communications have gone out. And I like the fact that David gave some nice insights on, you go for players, you can't get them, you move on, and some are just rumour mill. So don't believe everything you read or see.